Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
So remember, we are talking about the causes of the First World War. So we have looked at 4 of them. Now let us go to the 5th one, which is the first and second. The 5th one, which is the first and second Moroccan crisis. The first and second Moroccan crisis. That is the next course that we are going to discuss in our today's lesson. So when you talk of a crisis, it's a time when there is uncertainty, when there is a lot of decisions to be made. There is a lot of pressure that is going to happen. And I've said the word Moroccan comes from the word Morocco, which is a country. It comes from the word Morocco, which is a country in North Africa, in North West Africa. Yeah, there at the peak of the African continent. You can check in your atlas. You'll be able to locate the country Morocco. So we are saying there were 2 crises, the first and the second Moroccan crisis. So let us start with the first crisis. Which was the first crisis, or what is this, or which are these situations that we are saying resulted to being a crisis? So we are going to mention that the British and the Italians made an agreement. Which they referred to as the Entente Cordiale. Let me get the correct spelling for you. The Entente Cordiale. So in this agreement, which they refer to as the Entente Cordiale, they decided among themselves. It was made in 1904. They decided among themselves that Britain is going to take the territory of Egypt, and then the Italians are going to occupy Morocco. That was an agreement amongst themselves. But Germany, at the same point, had interest to take in Morocco. So between the 3 countries, these 2 went first and made an agreement. So the interest that Germans had in Morocco was thrown out. So they could not occupy Morocco as they wanted. So Germany became very upset. And in that, they had a prime minister who was known as William Kaiser, made a telegram and sent to a Mexican, to Mexico, trying to tell them to come and fight. That made the British and the Italians very startled, because they saw that Germans were trying to start a war in between them. But this cooled off. They were able to understand each other, and the war could not start at that time. But this still, there was shows that there was still some wrangles in between the British, the Italians, and the Germans. So when you talk of the second crisis, it is still happening in the same period. In 1911, that is almost 7 years later, you find that Germany was trying just to bring a disbalance between the two powers, sent a gunboat, Germany, a German gunboat, which was referred to as, remember at that time in military, they have, each boat has a name. This boat was known as the Panther. This boat was known as the Panther. So they sent this boat to the coast or to the port in Morocco to protect their interest in Morocco. Remember at that time the Italians have gone into the inland, but now the Germans send a boat to the port, which is referred to as Agadir port. Yeah, they send a boat to the Agadir port. Agadir port to protect or to safeguard their interests. This angered the Italians. Remember, Morocco is a territory for the Italians. But now we have the Germans sending a gunboat, right, to the coast of Morocco. This is like they are trying to upset the Italians to a war. So at that time, the wrangles between these two powers are continuing to be lifted up. They are continuing to continue existing, or they are continuing to expand. So that is about crisis. So Germany is at least trying to fight these people, the British and the Italians. And remember, these two have made a pact. They have made an agreement. So German is coming, trying to dislodge them, or trying to fight against the two of them. Actually, towards or during this second crisis, German demanded that even the Italians should be able to go and fight, or the Italians and the French should go and fight against, or should relinquish their position in Congo, so that they could be able to continue taking care of Morocco, right? Yes, so that is all about the Moroccan crisis. So if you are asked to describe how the Moroccan crisis fueled or led to the World War, you have to mention how the British took and the Italians. Actually, it's not the Italians, it is the French. Let me make a correction there. It is the French. It is the French. It is the French. It is the French. Yeah. There is this bad blood between the British, French, and the Germans. So that is just part of the activities that are leading towards the World War. Remember, we said in our previous lesson, the First World War started in 1914 up to 1918. Remember, now we are talking of 1904. These are years before the war started. So these are just activities or events that are leading towards the development of the First World War. So that is all about the first and the second Moroccan crisis. So my dear learner, let us look at our second last cause of the World War, that is nationalism. Nationalism of the Balkans. Nationalism of the Balkans. That is our next point that we are going to discuss. So when you talk of Balkans, in Europe, the countries we are talking about, the British, the French, the Germans, these were being led by empires. They had empires. And I'm sure you have learned about this. You learned about this in your in your Form 2 work when you are looking at the African empires. You can remember we had the Shona Empire, right? Yeah, so an empire is a rulership where we have different languages or different communities coming together to form a union, or coming to form together an empire being led by one ruler. So in Europe, we had different empires. We had the Russian Empire. 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 In this Russian Empire, we had different people. We had the Russian people. We had the Poles. We had other peoples known as the Slavs. Yeah, we have examples of people. We have the Poles, people referred to as the Poles. We had the Russians themselves. And then we have the Slavs, people we are referring to as the Slavs. We also had another empire which was known as Austro-Hungarian Empire. From this, we get the country we are referring to, Austria-Hungary. This was another empire. We also had the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire. These, I'm sure you have also mentioned them. You mentioned them in your Form 1 work when you were looking at the Indian Ocean trade. This was a very strong empire, the Ottoman Empire. We had the Turks. Yeah, we had the Turks, and then we had the Balkans also forming part of the Ottoman. We had the Hungarians, right? We had the Romanians. All of them were part of the Ottoman, but they were majorly led by the Turks, or the people we refer to as the Turks. So the Balkans, who are also part of these empires, right? They started to want their own independence. They wanted to form their own empire. So they started to fight, or they started to make their stand known. So because actually they were under the Turkish, or they were under the Ottoman Empire. So they wanted to start their own empire, or they wanted to stand on their own. So there was nationalism. Those people, there were radicals among them. They wanted to break away from this Ottoman Empire. The biggest reason for that was the Ottoman Empire was majorly Islam. They had Islamic religion, which the Balkans did not ascribe to. So they did not want to be led by Islamic practices. Remember, whenever there is an Islamic ruler, you have to follow the Sharia laws. You have to have their own way of dressing. The Balkans did not want that. So they started to rise up against the Ottoman Empire. This was a point to show that now this empire was being disintegrated. Even in these other empires, there was some kind of nationalism rising in them. Are you together? So that is how the nationalism of the Balkans brought about a change in or it upset the powers that were having, because now these ones were starting to disintegrate, because instead of trying to fight against the others, now they have to go back to their home and find how they are fighting against each other. Now, my dear learner, I want us to go to our last point, which is the most significant one, as we are going to discuss, which is about the assassination of the we're going to look at the assassination number 7, which is the last cause. Not forget, we are looking at the causes of the World War I, or the First World War. So we are going to look at the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. So when you talk of an assassination An assassination is a plot where somebody who is influential, especially leaders, are killed so that they do not take their position of leadership. That is what we refer to as an assassination, where a leader is killed to prevent them or to take them from an influential position. So it has to be an elaborate plan. Normally it is done in secret so that nobody is known or no one knows who is going to, or the person who has assassinated. So when we talk of Franz Ferdinand, this was an heir. He was supposed to be the heir. The heir. Somebody who was supposed to take over the rulership of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, or that, which came to be the Austria-Hungary nation. So Franz Ferdinand was supposed to be the next ruler or the next leader of the Austria-Hungarian Empire. But the Serbians, through a secret society, which was the Serbians organized a secret society which was known as Blackhead. Blackhead organized or made a plot when these Franz Ferdinand, together with the wife, was coming to the southern side, which is also known as Bosnia. They organized that when he came to inspect that empire or that region, that they could assassinate him. Actually, he was assassinated together with his wife. So they paid, or they organized someone to come and fight, or someone to come and assassinate the heir of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. So they organized. This person was the person they organized to come and assassinate him was known as Gavrilo, right? This is a Gavrilo Princip. Gavrilo Princip. This was the person who was given the responsibility of assassinating Franz Ferdinand. Actually, this happened on the 28th. It happened on the 28th July 1914. This is the day when the Franz Ferdinand, who was the heir of the Austria-Hungarian Empire or Austria-Hungary, you could call it that, was assassinated. Remember, this is the next person who is supposed to be the leader, because he's taking reins. You can even see he has come to inspect part of their empire, and now he is done what? He is assassinated. So what that did, it sparked, or it made Austria-Hungary, because they had known they are Serbians, and Serbians are part of the Russians. They came and accused them that now that you have made or you have assassinated our leader, they made several demands. They made demands. Let us look at what demands Austria's demand to Serbia. Austria's demand to Austria. So they made several demands to Serbia. So the first demand was they had to take away leaders whom Austria objected to. So Serbians, they had their own government. Now the Austria discovered that the Serbians have organized the assassination of Ferdinand. So they made an outrageous demand that every leader whom Austria objected to being in leadership, the Serbians had to take him away from leadership. And then number two, Serbia was supposed to suppress all societies or organizations. A society can also be referred to as an organization. Serbia was supposed to suppress all societies in Serbia. So you can imagine somebody coming to our nation and telling us we should dismantle every organization we have against against those people who are demanding us to take away all those organizations. And now the third one, which actually was the cause or was the spark that brought about the First World War, was the nation of Austria demanded the Austrian police to be allowed to enter Serbia, to ensure these first two demands have been met. Let me bring this closer home. You can imagine somebody has demanded in our nation that we take away all our leaders. All leaders who are opposed to that other nation, we have to take them away. And then we have to suppress every organization in our nation. I'm giving an example so that you could understand. And then we allow them to bring their police from their nation to come into our nation to ensure that the leaders who are not allowed in power by that nation have been taken away, and to ensure that all our societies have been suppressed. Would you allow that? So the Serbians decided not to allow. They accepted the first two, but the third one they objected to. And because they objected to these demand, Austria declared war. We had Austria declared war. Austria declared war on the Serbians. Remember, Serbians are allies with, or are part of, Russia, who have come together with Britain. Now, Austria is part of, which were the companions of Austria-Hungary. We had French, and then we had Italy. So when Austria declared war, right, obviously the people or the countries that they had made alliances with, remember we talked about formation of alliances, had to come to their aid. And this happened on the same day that the Ferdinand, or the Archduke, who is the heir or the heir, was assassinated. So these act as the spark. This cause, we refer to it as the immediate cause. The immediate cause. Let me use a different color so that you could get the difference. This one, we are referring to it as the immediate. Immediate. Let me get there so that you could see very well. The immediate cause of the war. When Austria declared war on Serbia, that became the spark of the First World War. It's, for example, when you're having a matchstick. You have a matchstick on the side, it is rough. You have a matchstick that is rubbed, right, that is ready to light fire. the fire will not be there until you rub the matchstick on the match box. So the assassination of Franz Ferdinand became the immediate cause of the First World War. I want you to get that, my dear learner. I want you to get that point very well. All these other causes, we have discussed them. The first, the formation of alliances, imperialism, Franco-Prussian War, the arms race, the first and the second Moroccan crisis, the nationalism of the Balkans, all were just causes that fueled or that led to the First World War. But now, here is the difference. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand, who is referred to as the Archduke of Austria at that time, was the spark that started the war. All these other times, they are just fighting against one another. It's like a Cold War. They are just fighting, but they are not physically going into war. But once this man was assassinated, that now started the war, which now we could now see now countries were marshalling up against one another. But that we are going to discuss in our next lesson when we look at the cause of the war. Now, since Austria has declared war, and I want you to remember it was on 28th, do not forget this date. It was on 28th of July 1914. Austria has declared war on Serbia. So in our next class, we are going to look at what happened next after that. How did now the war progress to find that we have Germany. So far we have just mentioned Austria and Serbia. So how did the other nations come into fight? Because now we said there are so many countries that were involved in the war. So my dear learner, as we come to the end of our lesson today, we have been talking about the causes of the First World War, which I said was also referred to as the Great War. You can also call it World War I. Those are different words that can be used to describe the First World War. And I said there are 7 reasons why the First World War came to existence. The first one was formation of alliances. And you can be able to mention the alliances that we have discussed. Then there was imperialism, that is leading one country exercising or extending their powers to other countries. And then number 3, we talked of the Franco-Prussian War, where the French lost the oil, the iron-rich provinces, that is Alsace and Lorraine. I've mentioned them. And then there was an arms race. Every country was running towards getting the superior weapons or becoming more influential in terms of their army. Then we have the first and the second Moroccan crisis. We discussed these where we had the British and the French discussing among themselves, and the agreement they made angered the Germans. And then we have talked of nationalism of the Balkans, which was disintegrating the Ottoman Empire. And then finally, the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, or the heir of the Austrian-Hungary Empire. This was the immediate cause, what sparked the war. Remember, when all these things are happening, every nation is going about their business. But once this man has been assassinated, it now became a full-fledged war. And in our next class, we are going to look at how did the war progress. So as we end our lesson today, my dear learner, I want to give you a very simple question from what we have just looked at. I want to give you a very simple question. You can just confirm from what we have written on the board and what we have discussed. So I want to give you a revision question. And this is the question. Number 1, state and explain State and explain. So you have to state a point and then you give a brief explanation. State and explain, there is an I there, and explain the causes of the First World War. We have already looked at that. I've given you 7 reasons. So can you be able to remember them? So you go back to your to the notes you have been taking. We have just mentioned all of them. 7 reasons. You have to state and then you have to explain. That is the question. So until our next lesson, it's bye-bye for now.
Thank you for choosing to study with us. For more information, you can call us on 0724 173845.